What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm the Crockneck, and I am doing a response video. I haven't done one of these in a while, and I saw this one started by my buddy ThrashManiac99, and I really like the subject matter. So we're gonna go over 10 comeback albums. Now, as according to the video that he originally set up, this is not a top 10. This is just 10 of my personal favorite comeback albums. And comeback albums is, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting thing because you can come back from a lot of different things. Long hiatuses, a string of bad albums flat out breaking up, or the horrible death of a member. So I went through all of those as qualifiers because I think those are probably the big ones in terms of what constitutes a comeback album. So yeah, let's go through this stack. I'm reasonably sure there's gonna be some familiar albums here. I know that ThrashManiac99 and Metal Ben probably brought up some of these. Possibly, I only kind of skimmed through there just because I didn't want to get influenced by their videos, but I recommend checking them out anyway. But yeah, let's get on with my list, and we're going to open up with a pretty obvious one, Carcass, Surgical Steel. This band had not put out anything since the kind of divisive Swan Song. I don't know, it's not my favorite. If anyone watched our ranking, yeah. It has its moments, but no. This album, however, is a true blue comeback, return to form. This might be their thrashiest album. I remember seeing them back in 2007 doing a reunion tour with Michael Amott, and they actually had Daniel Erlandson on drums. And it was just cool seeing him live. I didn't think I'd ever get a chance, you know, hearing stuff from Heartwork, Necroticism, Symphonies of Sickness, even a little bit of Reek, and a little bit of Swan Song too. But I thought it was just gonna be kind of a one and done thing, and lo and behold, there was rumblings that they were coming out with an album, and I believe the first song I heard on here was Captive Bolt Pistol, and was like, holy shit, this sounds fucking great. When this dropped, I jammed this non-stop for a while, and it literally recaptures everything that I love about Carcass again. The heavy but melodic riffs, Jeff Walker's token snarl, even Bill Steers throwing out some death roars again, getting Dan Wilding on drums to replace Ken Owen, which, you know, it sucks that he had the massive aneurysm, otherwise he would have been a part of this. But he's definitely there in spirit. He was even in the music video for Unfit for Human Consumption, which is one of my favorite tracks on here. Actually, one of my favorite Carcass tracks in general. I would say this album is pretty much all killer, no filler. I think I had it at number 4 on my list. I don't know, I might be wrong there. Just because, man, when it comes down to the albums I absolutely love by Carcass, they're all kind of like top tier death metal albums in general. But regardless of where I rank this one in my ranking, I absolutely love this album. This is an amazing return to form. I think Torn Arteries has been a great successor to this one too. But yeah, this one got the ball rolling again. Welcome back, fucking Carcass. This was such a fucking treat when it dropped in 2013, and I still jam the shit out of this one all the time. So yeah, if you have never checked out this one, I don't know why you didn't, because this is Carcass. You should love Carcass, especially if you watch this channel. This channel loves fucking Carcass, and I kind of assume that most of you guys do. But yeah, most people know this one, but if you don't know it, check it out. It's amazing. Allisonchains, Black Gives Way to Blue. This album was one that I wasn't necessarily expecting either. Coming back from the death of Lane Staley back in 2002, I thought Allisonchains was done. In fact, Jerry Cantrell put out his Degradation Trips Volume 1 and 2. If you have the expanded edition, which is absolutely awesome. That was intended to be the next Allisonchains album, and I kind of figured that Jerry would continue on with his solo stuff, but slowly but surely they started reuniting for shows and getting different singers to sing. I know ThrashManiac brought this one up, and well, he should, because this is an absolutely incredible album. William Duvall might not be the perfect replacement because Lane had such a unique voice, and the harmonies he did with Jerry Cantrell are absolutely gut-wrenching just in terms of the hooks and the sorrow and the gloom. But William Duvall does a great job on here. He also contributes on guitars, and this album is just loaded with great songs. They captured the vibe again. And this is a giant-sized, dark, brooding album that is pretty much a memorial to Lane, and also them pretty much picking themselves back up and moving forward once again. So this has a lot of emotional weight to it, as well as the heavy weight of the riffs. I mean, the opening track, All Secrets Known, I absolutely love. Check My Brain, great single. I mean, but there's so many damn good songs on here. Take Her Out has one of the catchiest choruses on the entire album. The title track featuring Elton John on piano is gut-wrenching, like got a little misty-eyed when I first heard that one because you know exactly what it's about. Now, this is debatable as to whether or not this is a metal band. I've always considered them at least on the cusp. Like, of course, they get, you know, the whole grunge thing, which they do fit in there, but they also fit in a lot of other areas in terms of music. They're heavy and dark and brooding. There's a lot of doom and gloom to them, and that's definitely a metal thing. As you can see, due to the condition of this copy, I spent a lot of time with it. I jammed it frequently, and it's a gut-wrenching album, but it is absolutely fucking fantastic. I mean, Allisonchains is great at sad, but this one was sad for a very distinct reason. But they came back with a fury, and honestly, the two albums that followed up have been really fucking good too. But this was the one that was the catalyst of getting them back going, and amazing album. So again, this is another one if you have not checked out, which, I mean, I think most people have. This is a pretty damn popular album. But if you haven't, definitely check this one out, and yeah, it's gonna fucking rip your heart out, but it's absolutely beautiful, and I strongly recommend it. Faith No More, Soul Invictus. Now this is one I did not see on Metal Ben or Thrash Maniac's list, and well, I don't know if they're as big a Faith No More fans as I am, but I am a fucking huge Faith No More fan. Angel Dust is like a desert island album for me. I mean, shit, so is King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime. Actually, you know, most of them. Most of them are just fucking great fucking albums. And when they broke up in 97 or 98, I believe it was 97, like right after Album of the Year, well, I mean, there was just kind of a void. These guys had this little niche of just being this strange, experimental, jack-of-all-trades sort of band that was willing to try anything and then kind of splash in a bit of metal in there, too. And, well, Mike Patton kind of went off and did a lot of his own projects, which I follow Mike Patton anywhere. He's, I think, one of the world's greatest vocalists. He's at least one of the best vocalists in metal. And all the other members did their own thing for a while, too. But during that time, I was like, man, if they could just get back together and do Faith No More, because Faith No More was very special. And then I heard about a reunion and them doing shows again. And then lo and behold, they were recording a new album, and I was fucking excited. And the first track I heard was the wonderfully titled Motherfucker. And while it is sort of just like a novelty track, it captures the mood, and honestly, it kind of captures the mood and the quirkiness of Angel Dust. And, well, I fucking love that album, so I was instantly hooked. But then hearing the rest of the album, this is kind of a culmination of, I would say, Angel Dust, King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime, and Album of the Year. It kind of combines all those elements. John Hudson returns on guitars, delivers some killer riffs. Roddy Bottom's fucking keyboard work and vocal work working with Mike Patton is absolutely amazing. The whole band was firing on all cylinders on here. I know, like, cliche police are probably going to arrest me for saying that one. I think that's more Jammin' John's line anyway. Arrest him. But I absolutely love this album. Like, I jammed it nonstop. Honestly, if we'd been doing the channel when this came out, this probably might have been my, ironically, album of the year. It's dark, foreboding, heavy, but it's also poppy, it's jazzy, it's swingy, and it's just an entertaining listen from front to back. Welcome back, Faith No More. Now, I believe they were supposed to be working on a new album, but I think Mike Patton is actually taking some personal time. You know, the pandemic pretty much affected everyone, and, you know, he just kind of needs some time to reflect. But hopefully they get back to the studio, because this is such an amazing album, and I'm reasonably sure they have more of this energy still in them, because this is so fucking good. So yeah, if you've never checked this one out, again, reasonably popular band. I'm pretty sure most of you have, but if you haven't, this album is fucking glorious. So check it out. The Haunted, Exit Wounds. So this is one of those comebacks from a bad album, like a really bad album. The Haunted's Unseen is just a directionless, weird sort of alternative metal, and they kind of abandoned their thrashy / melodic death metal roots, and, well, it was bad. And it came out not long after or before, like very much in the same time frame as Morbid Angel's Aluminum Anus. So yeah, 2011 was a rough year for metal, at least for me, because two of my favorite bands fucking shit the bed in glorious fashion. And, well, it resulted in essentially the hiatus of The Haunted and kind of the hiatus of Morbid Angel for a bit, too. And it took some time for The Haunted to get back to work. Now, there were a lot of members that actually exited, namely Peter Dolving left as the frontman, and their drummer, Per Olsen, I believe his name was, also left the band, as well as guitarist Anders, who went on to At the Gates again. And yeah, they pretty much had to retool their lineup. So slowly but surely they started to get things together, started teasing that they were getting back together, and I believe they showed like a silhouette of the band, and I noticed right away the person they had at the frontman position in the picture, though I couldn't see his face, it was a large, bald man, and I was like, that is probably Marco returning on vocals, and lo and behold, it was, and Marco came back with a furious amount of energy on here. But the surprises didn't stop there. They brought back Adrian Erlandson, who was only on the first album, I believe, and they got YouTube sensation gear reviewer Ola Englund as their second guitarist and lead guitarist, and holy shit, they came out with an absolute banger of an album. This was a flat-out return to form, like all the way back to The Haunted Made Me Do It and One Kill Wonder. Those are two of my favorite albums by The Haunted. The thrashiness was back. The just brutality and anger was back. They were not kind of fiddling around with as much melody or, you know, atmosphere. Like, these were strong, just vicious, direct songs. Again, they were in your face, and it pretty much recaptured everything that I was missing about The Haunted. Like, I didn't mind the Dolving Run Part 2. I thought Revolver was pretty good. You know, Versus had some good songs, and I think The Deadeye is a pretty underrated album. But again, I wanted that thrashy, brutal energy back from, you know, albums like One Kill Wonder and The Haunted Made Me Do It, and that is exactly what this brings back. After the intro, this album just explodes with Cutting Teeth, which is one of my new favorite songs. That crawling riff is absolutely infectious. The chorus is flat out brutal as fuck. My Salvation, Eye of the Storm, which is just a short fucking vicious banger. This is such a great reestablishing act right here. Now, I think the album that followed this might have been a little bit better, but this one got them back on track, and that's why I would throw it here as a comeback album. This is a great way to win your fans back over and, you know, pretty much ease any tensions about getting future albums, because, again, Unseen, kind of a giant fucking dud in my opinion. Which, you know, spoiler there, if we ever rank them, yeah, I don't like that album, but I don't think many people do. But this, absolutely fantastic, death thrash, melodic death metal, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's just vicious, and it's awesome, and you should check it out if you haven't. Because this is just a flat-out, brutal, non-stop, hard-hitting album, and yeah, that's kind of what I want from The Haunted. And hopefully what I'll get with future releases again. So yeah, check this one out. At the Gates, At War with Reality. So 2013 was Carcass's year, 2014 was At the Gates year. They fully reunited and delivered their first album since their genre-defining album, Slaughter the Soul, in 1995. They broke up after that album, all pursued different projects. I think Thomas Lindbergh fronted every metal band he possibly could in that time frame in between. The twins went on to form The Haunted. Erlandson ended up drumming for a number of different projects. Everyone pretty much stayed busy during that time, and it was kind of around that 2002 run where metalcore started picking up and that more melodic style started coming up, and everyone started bringing up At the Gates, Slaughter the Soul. That and a lot of early In Flames too. And you started hearing that sound get injected more into metalcore, and then the whole like mid-2000s run of melodic death metal. There was a ton of At the Gates worship, but none of it was quite as good as the original. So sometime in the early 2010s, At the Gates started to reform and play shows, and then lo and behold, they decided they were going to record an album. So this is an interesting one where they actually broke up on top, which, you know, that's kind of tough to come back from. Like, you left on a landmark album, and coming back, well, pretty much everything is going to be compared to that last album, which, again, that last album is pretty much viewed as the pinnacle of their discography. Well, they came back strong as hell. In fact, I would even say this is almost like Slaughter the Soul Part 2. It recaptures their sound with more modern production, and it's vicious, it's crunchy, it's hooky as hell. The songs are very well written. Everyone pretty much brought their A game on here, and they wrote a solid reestablishing album. Now, I think they've definitely gotten more experimental with the albums that have followed here, but that wasn't the mission statement on this one. They needed to write something that would once again reestablish their brand of melodic death metal and at least compare to Slaughter the Soul. They didn't need to beat that album because I don't think they really can. I mean, I could be wrong there, but I mean, that is just, you know, kind of god tier album there. But they came back with something pretty damn close, and I think this is an absolutely fantastic album from start to finish. The title track, Eater of Gods, I love Death in the Labyrinth, Conspiracy of the Blind. There are so many damn good songs in here, and they are a bit formulaic, but it's that formula that I love. It's that formula that I expected. And again, this is where you come back and reestablish your sound, not try to venture out. You save that for, well, albums to follow. And they did it. They reestablished their brand 100%. At the Gates is back and putting out albums again, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the output, and welcome back At the Gates. But yeah, this was the one that started it all, and easily one of my favorite comeback albums. So again, like 2013 Carcass, 2014 At the Gates. Fucking brilliant. Now, In Flames, if you could just write something worth a fuck, that'd be awesome, and kind of get something on par with, like, I don't know. I'll settle for something on par with fucking Horacle. Anyway, I digress. At the Gates, At War with Reality, amazing comeback album, and if you have not checked it out, you're missing out on some quality melodic death metal. Cynic Traced in Air. This band put out a mind-bending album in the 90s called Focus, and I don't think it gained the traction that it should have, because it was absolutely mind-blowing with their like progressive jazz fusion style and weird alien vocals with all the vocal effects and alternating growls and spacey cleans. Like, they were kind of like next level. Like, they kind of took like groundwork maybe laid by Atheist and went even further with it. Plus, Sean Reinhart and Paul Masvidal were also on Death's Human, which is also fucking absolutely amazing. So it was kind of weird just to see that the band kind of fizzled out not long after that debut release. They all kind of pursued different projects. I believe Gordian Knot was Paul Masvidal's. I can't remember all the ones that Reinhardt was on. And bassist Sean Malone also did a lot of different projects as well. But they all kind of moved on from Cynic, it seemed, and their first album just kind of became a kind of cult one-off album that a lot of like more in-depth prog fans really got into. And then, slowly but surely, you started hearing rumblings again that Cynic was actually going to get back to work. And lo and behold, I started hearing tracks coming out, and I believe it was Integral Birth that I heard first. And I was like, dude, this is really good. In fact, this might sound better than some of the stuff on Focus. And then when this album dropped, I jammed the living shit out of it, which I'm surprised I have actually kept this copy in decent condition. I mean, it's got a couple scuffs. Anyway, I jammed the living shit out of this, and honestly, I think this is still their best album. These guys aged like a fine wine, and they came back more intricate, more melodic, maybe even just better all around in terms of songwriting. Just everything about Cynic became better on this album, and I love Focus. I think Focus is an amazing album, but this is almost untouchable. The spacey melodies are even better. Like, the songs are just more hooky. They're still strange as hell, but they found a way to write clever hooks. Like Evolutionary Sleeper, absolutely mind-bending song with unreal playing on it, but it still manages to generate some really clever melodic hooks that actually get stuck in your head, which is saying something for, prog metal, because prog metal is generally about excessive playing and, like lots of intricate passages and movements and such. If you can still generate some really cool hooks in there, like, I think that shows a lot of songwriting maturity. And this album flat out blew me away. It still blows me away listening to it. This is one of my favorite prog albums, honestly. Now, Cynic's career has been very up and down. The two albums that followed this, well, I think Carbon Based Anatomy was pretty solid. Really wasn't the biggest fan of Kindly Bent to Free Us, and then there was the split, and I believe there was some legal stuff in there too, and then sadly we lost both Sean Reinhart and Sean Malone. Fucking still gut-wrenching on that one. But recently we've had Cynic come back with a new album, and it's, again, very different, but it's just good to have them back. And I suppose in a way maybe that new album kind of counts as a comeback album too, considering everything that happened in between that one and Kindly Bent to Free Us. But in terms of comeback albums, there's no way in hell I couldn't pick this one, because this is just a flat-out amazing album from start to finish. So again, like I say, after all of these, if you have never jammed this one, I am legit gonna say you're missing out on one of the best prog metal albums out there. So get to it. Just jam the shit out of this. I'm gonna leave links to all this shit because I think these albums are so damn good. But yeah, this one especially, jam it. It's amazing. Exodus, Tempo of the Damned. I know, I had it at like number 7 on my list in the recent ranking of Exodus, but in terms of coming back from, well, a pretty bad album with Force of Habit, This is a hell of a reestablishing act. Force of Habit was pretty much a casualty of, post-Black Album thrash metal. Like, everyone trying to make their sound more accessible so they can get at least a little bit of that, Black Album money. And Force of Habit was bad. And it was like 76 minutes of bad. I already bitched about that album. But this album pretty much came out swinging right from the start. This was Exodus again. This was heavy. This was violent. All the riffs were absolutely fucking crushing on here. Now, this was written with Paul Bailoff in mind, but sadly he died of a stroke before this came out. So Zetro became the frontman once again. And honestly, Zetro sounds pretty decent on here. Like, there's definitely some moments where, again, I'm kind of like, wishy-washy on Zetro's vocals, but for the most part, he's absolutely kicking ass in here. War is My Shepherd might be one of my favorite Exodus songs, but I say that about a lot of Exodus songs. If you didn't watch the ranking, yeah, I'd probably say that a lot, but I love this band. It's fucking Exodus. Blacklist pretty much became a live staple, Sealed with a Fist. Like, this brought back pretty much everything that everyone was missing about Exodus, because those early run albums were fucking fantastic. And, then the 90s hit and got a little, tough there, especially if you're in a thrash metal band. Thrash metal suffered a nasty fucking fate in the early 90s, unfortunately. But when this dropped in 2004, it was part of a nice thrash resurgence. Bands like Municipal Waste and fucking Evil and Rumpelstiltskin Grinder. There were a fuck ton of them, and I was in fucking thrash heaven once again. And seeing Exodus come out with another album, that pretty much cemented it. This is a killer album, and I know I ranked it a little bit lower, but Exodus has a lot of fucking great albums, so I mean, that's not a bad problem to have. I know Shred and Miller probably ranked it a lot higher. I know fucking John fucked up. Hey, that was a big fuck up on his part. I didn't fuck up as much, so I'll take that. But anyway, absolutely love this album. Killer comeback, reestablished fucking Exodus, and they've been back and fucking hitting everyone in the fucking mouth ever since, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So yeah, check this one out. Obituary, self-titled. This came out in 2017 on Relapse Records, and holy shit, I was so impressed from right away, the first song. There was a run of albums by Obituary that, I mean, I got them. I still thought they were decent, but there was just something missing, like that energy seemed to be waning. And this one, they found it again. And this is a album that is almost on par with some of their early works. Like, Cause of Death and Salute to Rot are pretty much god-tier death metal albums in my mind. Incomplete's way up there too. This is at least on par with that energy and that ferocity again. You can tell when a band is just fucking feeling again, and you can hear it on pretty much every track. End It Now, possibly one of the heaviest songs they've written in years. Sentence Day and Brave, the opening two tracks, are like a thrashy back-to-back fucking punch. One of the things I remember seeing about this, I was watching interviews, and I was watching one with Trevor Perez, and he actually said, like, yeah, I don't think we've actually put out some of our best work here lately, but when we were writing this album, we felt very strong about it. And I like that willingness to critique himself and actually, say, hey, listen, I want to write something meaningful and fucking energetic again. And they flat out did it. Again, the two albums before this, while I don't think they're bad, they don't have nearly the energy on this. Hell, even the production on here is way more just, crisp, and it just sounds like what you get live from them. John Tardy still fucking has like some of the coolest death metal vocals out there, and Donald Tardy is, well, perhaps one of the smiliest drummers I've seen in terms of death metal drummers, but he's just a killer fucking drummer. Obituary was one of the original death metal bands I got into, right along with like Cannibal Corpse and Deicide. So there's like kind of part of me that will never like not love Obituary, but when this came out, I legit fell in love with them like all over again. Like, this reminded me so much of the Obituary that I initially heard when I was young, that made such a huge impression on me. And it was just awesome to hear that energy from a band this far in their career, and fucking ballsy of them too to fucking make a self-titled album this late in their career too. Like, usually that's like a third or fourth album sort of thing with most bands. Like, nah, man, this is just Obituary, and that's all it needs to be. This is a flat out glorious album. Honestly, it's definitely up there in terms of my favorite Obituary albums, and if you have never jammed this one, or you just kind of slept on Obituary for years, wake up, get this one, jam it. You'll remind yourself why you love Obituary in the first place. Killer stuff. Sleep, The Sciences. I am a giant Matt Pike fan, and though I started with High on Fire before I ever got to Sleep. I did get Sleep's Holy Mountain, and that is, I would say, up there in terms of my favorite classic, like, stoner metal albums. And though I am not a fan of Dope Smoker, I appreciate it for what it is, like 52 minutes of kind of the same riff. But that whole story behind that album kind of culminated in them breaking up and all doing their different projects and such. And the band sort of just became like a thing of legends. Like if you were a giant stoner metal fan, there was a damn good chance you liked Sleep. Matt Pike went on to do High on Fire, obviously. Alice Snow went on to do OM or OM. And Sleep kind of just became this cult band. Like if you were deep into stoner metal, you were going to run into Sleep eventually, and then you were going to hear, well, either Dope Smoker or Holy Mountain and get blown away by either or both. Hell, you might have celebrated both their albums with a garbage bag full of weed. I don't know, but that does seem like the appropriate way to, you know, celebrate any Sleep song, especially a 52-minute one. But honestly, I thought this band was done. And then, to a huge surprise, and I honestly did not even know that they were working on an album at all. They kept that shit hush-hush. And in the age of the internet, bravo, guys. In 2018, on 420, because it's fucking Sleep, they released The Sciences. And legit, it recaptures everything that I like about more of the style of Dope Smoker. Like, it kind of has more of that sound sonically in terms of production, in terms of the riffs, but it's broken up into multiple tracks, and it kind of has more of a flow like Holy Mountain. So they pretty much just kind of captured both albums in one, and of course, weed themes left and right. The second track, Marijuana Knots theme, absolutely awesome. Giza Butler, are fantastic song names on here, but the songs are just absolutely amazing. Big, droning riffs. Matt Pike likes to play slow every now and then on High on Fire albums, but he's also got that sort of thrashy energy in there too. This is back to the drone and the lumbering pace, and it pretty much just recaptures everything that everyone loved about Sleep. And the fact that this was kind of a surprise release kind of makes this even more of an interesting comeback, but I don't know how much of a comeback it is because, you know, I know they've done some tours. I don't know if they plan on following this one up, but in terms of, again, reminding their fans that they're out there and throwing in something that I would say is on par with all the stuff they've delivered before, I think that kind of qualifies as a comeback album. Admittedly, I will say this is probably a little bit more listenable than Dope Smoker, but I appreciate Dope Smoker for what it is. But this is a fantastic comeback album. I hope they actually get together and do another one sometime. You know, I think we can give them like a little bit of leeway in terms of space between albums because I think all of them are pretty damn busy on here. I believe the drummer on here is the drummer of Neurosis, which actually know that band needs to get busy too. Either way, awesome comeback album. If you have never jammed it, once again, definitely check this one out. If the mood isn't striking you, maybe just eat a handful of edibles and put this on and just slowly melt into your couch. Eat an entire bag of Funyuns, maybe order some DoorDash. Those all seem like the proper way to celebrate this album, but yeah, definitely check it out. And finally, possibly my favorite comeback album of the bunch is Possessed Revelations of Oblivion. This is such a great comeback story in general, and holy shit, this album was absolutely incredible. So for those that don't know Jeff Becerra's story and how he became paraplegic, I believe he was in a convenience store and there was a robbery and he caught a stray bullet in the back and that left him paralyzed. And that was essentially the end of Possessed at that time. But Jeff Becerra has so much fighting spirit, and that is one of the reasons why I think this is one of the best comeback albums, because it took him a while to get back on stage and get this rolling again. And I love that fighting spirit. Like, he really wanted to recapture that feeling again. He wanted to get Possessed out there again. And he wanted to get on stage and fucking whoop ass again. And man, when this album came out, I was legit blown away by it. It's still debatable as to whether or not Possessed was the first death metal band or it was Death. I mean, you know, either or will work. I still think Possessed is a little bit thrashier, but no one will argue that this album is not heavy as fuck. And honestly, it might be my favorite Possessed album now. I love Seven Churches. I think Beyond the Gates is fucking underrated as hell. And the Eyes of Horror EP is really good. But this, there is some brutal honesty to it and a real connection to all the vitriol that fucking Jeff is spitting out vocally. The songwriting is tight, it is brutal, it is fucking catchier than hell. There's so much aggression in here. The song Damned might be possibly my favorite song by Possessed now. No More Room in Hell is a fucking scathing opener. Abandoned, dude, I legit fucking feel that song, and the feeling is rage. I have listened to this album so many fucking times, and honestly, it's one of those just kind of feels like it gets better with every listen. Not only did he recapture the old school Possessed sound, but I think he improved upon it, and the lineup on here is sick. Claudius Kramer and Daniel Gonzalez are an incredible guitar tandem on here. The lead trade-offs are fucking scorching on here. And the drum work on here propels this fucking album at fucking like Mach 10 almost the entire time. And I love the production. It's crisp, it's modern, but it still sounds grittier than hell, and the dark, foreboding feel on the album is just great. Literally everything about this checks off great comeback album. You have an awesome story about someone that, you know, had a horrible thing happened to him and came back and rose up from all that shit to fucking just dominate once again. The album itself comes out and is warmly embraced by all the fucking fans, and legit, it's just fucking awesome, and again, debatably, might be the best one of their career. For those reasons, that makes this a fucking like amazing comeback album when you consider all the factors involved. I still jam this one a fuck ton. Jeff actually thanked us in the comments in our 2019 year-end lists, because both Shred and I had this in our lists, and that was honestly one of the first times like any like band member actually commented on our videos, and we were completely blown away by that. And we were actually planning on seeing them when they were going to tour with Pestilence, and then fucking COVID, you know, fucking ruining everything. We missed out on that, so we're both hoping to see Possessed sometime and hear them play these absolutely amazing songs on there, plus songs from like all the other albums too. So while this isn't like an official like top 10 like ranking of comeback albums, this one might be my favorite of the bunch just for all the reasons and, you know, how much it actually took for this one to come back out. If you have not jammed this one, you were sorely missing out on a brilliant death metal / thrash metal album. It's absolutely amazing from start to finish. Go get it. And Jeff's amazing, and so is the rest of his fucking band. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got there. So those were 10 of my favorite comeback albums in metal, and now here comes the part where other YouTubers out there, would you like to respond to this one? I think you should, because I think this is a fun one. Thrash Maniac or Levi, this was a damn good idea. I really enjoy going over these albums again, because a good comeback story I think everyone can kind of rally around. Who doesn't love a good story of rising up from adversity to fucking just conquer the living fuck out of the world with, well, at least in this scenario, a killer metal album. And while I only had 10 here, there were definitely more I want to include, so if you want to throw some comeback albums down in the comments too, definitely do it. I mean, there's definitely some that were close to making my list. There were definitely some on Metal Ben and Thrash Maniac's list that I could have considered, but I didn't want to throw in just stuff that they already brought up. Thrash Maniac 99, you came up with a damn good one here, and well, we're going to keep it going. So, of course, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there will be a link down below. We are going to have an Ask Us Anything thing for Patreon probably towards the end of this month. And, well, we need more questions asked of us. So, again, if you are a Patreon subscriber and you're seeing this and you haven't asked a question on there, there is a post on our Patreon. So just ask a question. And again, it can be anything. Make it strange. I don't mind answering strange questions because, well, we're a bunch of fucking weirdos here. Also, there's a link down there to thrallsmetal.com where you can get one of our kick-ass shirts. And, of course, there's a link for the entry form for Denver Death Fest. If you are in a band and you want to go to Denver to play music, all you have to do is click this link down there and fill out the form, and you are entered. It'll be a little while before we come up with the final lineup, but we're trying to get as many bands to enter in and trying to round out the festival here. It'll take place September 30th through October 2nd, and I think we still need more bands, so that means you guys get in there and fill in some information. We do have a fair amount of bands already, but we still need more, so keep them coming, guys. And as always, thank you all so much for subscribing, liking, following our videos. I know this is the awkward thank you part of the video. Everyone run. He's just gonna thank you and thank you fucking hard. But regardless, I always want to thank you guys because you guys keep us going, and we've built a cool community here, and I'm really fucking enjoying it. So thank you once again. And with that, we will catch you later.